The best way I could describe dressage is really it's like gymnastics for horses. Obviously the beauty of it is the harmony that you would see between horse and rider. It's supposed to look effortless, and the set movements that we have in the Grand Prix test are really to show that the training of the horse has been executed correctly. There are two ways of doing it really. Either you train your own horse, you buy a horse at a young age and you train it up through the levels. And I think this is a really preferable way to compete because obviously you have a great relationship with that horse. By the time it gets to the levels of Grand Prix, you understand each other very well and you just know each other inside out. So this is a pretty reliable horse. He's 11 years old and he was my reserve this year for the European Championships. So he's probably just outside the top 10 in the world at the moment. You need quite an eye to select a young horse that might possibly make the top. What I can select at 2 or 3 years old when I'm looking for horses is how they move, obviously their shape, that's their conformation. And they're not normally ridden at the age of 2 or 3, but obviously to buy them at that stage is a lot less risky because they're normally quite cheap horses then. Ridden horses, then obviously more people know what they've got, so I tend to try and buy them unbroken. So the one thing that is very difficult to tell is what their temperament's going to be like. How do I know that a horse can go into an arena with 10,000 people around it and actually cope with that atmosphere? You know, some horses are very highly strung and they can't. So that's a very difficult thing to predict at an early age. We tend to try and mould their temperaments, but some horses just don't have that in their nature. And those are the ones that we have to accept along the way are probably not going to make it and will go on and do a different job instead. This trot you're looking at here is collected. And I'm going to come on the diagonal and just ride an extended. So and back to collected, and now this passage. So this is very elevated. And what the judges are looking for is the horse doing it on his own. You can see it's all about the spring really, how much height he's got, and that it's very regular, and that when I stop he stands absolutely still and doesn't move. So I have various techniques that I use to communicate with my horse. The first one starts with your seat, so that's the way I sit on the horse. That actually can direct a horse to go more forward or more back, depending on how I use my muscles. The other thing I have obviously is a pair of reins. So these give very light aids, what we call a half halt. And this is just to momentarily stop the horse going forward and then releasing the rein again. And obviously my legs. So if I put more pressure with my right leg on the side of the horse, he should move to the left, and more pressure with my left leg, he will move to the right. And obviously if I use both legs together, then that is an aid that tells the horse to go forward. So it's quite complicated, but it takes many years to fine-tune to actually have these aids very subtle so that you can't see them. So the communication here is my reins are just slowing the front and my legs are just touching him a little bit on his sides, keep the energy. And then if I walk, I can drop the reins. And he can stretch his muscles and just relax again. We're very strong at the moment, and in fact we set a new world record at the European Championships by the team that has won by the largest margin. So you can imagine that puts us, providing all our horses are sound and fit, and the same with the riders, that puts us in a very good place for next year's Olympic Games. Individually, there are perhaps six combinations in the world will be vying for those top medals. I think my horse and Charlotte's horse are very young, they're very fresh. Obviously the great thing is about London is that we don't have to travel them very far. I mean, normally most of our competitions are in Europe and the horses sometimes have 2 or 3 days travelling on the lorry, and that can be quite wearing for them when they have to compete when we get there. So we have a great advantage obviously next year, home crowd, not far to travel, the horses can be kept really fresh, and it's looking pretty promising.